My father was born in Okayama Prefecture. I don't know the town. My mother was born in Kyoto, Japan.
Lloyd was born in Helper, Utah.
I came to California with my mother. My father had already preceded us in 1934. I grew up in a mixed neighborhood, mostly black, Filipino, Mexican. I basically identified myself as Japanese, not Japanese American, just Japanese. During those times, my role model were sports people like Jackie Robinson, Kenny Washington, Joe Louis. And maybe that was some kind of unconscious idea that these blacks were more accepted because they were sports heroes. And maybe that was also the way for me to be an American. I had a home-built scooter that I was riding, and I was going down the hill on the scooter thinking the Japanese had bombed Pearl Harbor, not knowing anything where Pearl Harbor was or anything. But I did know that that meant that we were in conflict with Japan.
Lloyd's family was sent to Heart Mountain Relocation Center in Wyoming.
We had limited quarters, but they insisted on everybody staying together. So I remember 12 people being in rooms and things like that, and I had to go to bed first because I was in the middle. My parents made me feel very secure. I never felt anything in terms of the turmoil. They just went along in the so-called shikataganai way. Among Japanese Americans, there were a lot more kids smarter than I was and worked, I guess, as much as I would.
They were released after 3 years.
Ever since I left camp, I was aware. If you were not a white American, you were going to be viewed differently, and especially at this point, if you're Japanese. My uncle found a house in Baltimore. I finished high school there. By that time, I had developed some sports skills, and again, that was kind of a way to be accepted. Even though I was small, I looked athletic, I think, by then. I don't look athletic now, but at that time I did.
He moved to Los Angeles to go to college, but
I couldn't afford out-of-state tuition. So that's when I decided, well, the only option I have maybe is the GI Bill. So I asked to be drafted.
Lloyd was sent to Korea.
During the time in Korea, I began to know that I was an American and not an Asian. That period in my life probably set my career and what I wanted to do. I think that's when I decided that I needed to explain Asia to the Americans. Went back to the States and I applied to Michigan. At that time I got interested in political science and then combined that with my interest in Asia.
He went to Japan to research his dissertation.
I had a friend named Harry Hartunian who was using Tezuka as a translator. So I met Tezuka, and it was much more important to me to marry this young lady than to finish my dissertation.
Lloyd became a professor at California State University, Long Beach.
In the spring of '69, some students, Evelyn Yoshimura and Kerry Furia, came in and asked whether I would be an advisor to their group. They were interested in Asian American studies.
Asian American students were realizing that their communities' histories were not being taught in schools. They felt an urgent need to uncover their pasts in order to define their own identities.
We put together an Asian American course. They were basically student-run, and they were an attempt to get students to speak and be participant in their own education, and at the same time to make sure that there was a community input by bringing people from the community to speak and so forth. If you don't have an academic program that meets the diversity of society and history and so forth, you are really having a kind of limited education. I got involved actually before I retired when the museum was attempting to lay the foundation, but because of illness, I stopped doing that and didn't continue until after I retired. My own feeling is that the reason I'm still alive now is that the museum gave me something to keep involved with and doing something worthwhile. So I've lived longer than the 10 years I thought I would, and continue to offer my services where I can to the museum.
Thanks to Lloyd's pioneering work, the history of the past will continue to enlighten and inspire future generations.